What's the point of living life if you're just miserable and stressed about money all the time? And I don't want that for you. I do not want that for you. I want happiness. Happiness right now, even if it's a smaller version of what you hope it will be one day. There's so many finance gurus, and even in general, the narrative is to just budget on everything and cut expenses in every way, shape, and form, which I have been there, I've done that, I still do that. I was very familiar with that avenue, but no one tells you what's the right way to spend. They'll tell you the right way to budget. There's many different options for budgeting. But what about spending? Y'all know this is my favorite finance book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. And I really, really love this guy's philosophy overall, but this book was the book that I got back in 2018 when I had been a couple years out of grad school and I finally got the job that I have today. And I was finally making a little bit of extra money because previously to this job, I was working a really meager salaried job and had a shitload of student loan debt. So I came into this job that I have now and I immediately about tripled my income. And I didn't know what to do. What was the best move with this money that I had? Obviously, I knew credit cards had to go, medical bills had to go. I just snowballed all of my little bits that I had. And then I came across I think it was on Matt Diavella's channel. He did an interview with Ramit all about this book and Ramit's philosophy on money. And it just kind of smacked me upside the head. And I was like, ooh, I love what this guy says. I feel like that book could really benefit me. And his really tagline that he mentioned in the podcast and he also mentions in the book is spend extravagantly on the things that you love, cut mercilessly on the things that you don't. So I'm just going to go through this book chapter by chapter and just kind of give what I feel like were the biggest takeaways from each chapter. And I think if there's ever any confusion about where to even get started with your money, this is where you should start. And even now, as I was going back through it for this book review, there was things that were jumping back out at me like, oh wow, either I missed that the first time or it's good to circle back around to that. I've kind of gotten away from that kind of thing. So I think it's well worth the read, not only the first time, but also I've read it probably 3 times now. So love this book. Can't say enough good things about it. And now the overall premise of this book is really getting your finances set up and automated in a way that let you mentally step back from them a little bit so that they're not a continual thought process and something that's stressing you out all the freaking time, which is absolutely where I was. Another thing that's funny about this book is Ramit is, if you follow him on social media, which I definitely think you should, because he gives, even though he did update this book in the last few years, he obviously keeps his content fresh on social media. And he's very much worth the follow if you jive with him. And I do. I like his philosophy a lot. But another thing he's big on is don't live in the spreadsheet, which I am going to admit right now. You all already know I am super guilty of the spreadsheet life. The whole point of this book is to live your life so that finances are not always right here. And being in the spreadsheet kind of does really keep them at the forefront because, oh, I want to update the spreadsheet every time you make a purchase. And yeah, it's annoying. Most people don't live that way, and most people shouldn't live that way. I just do because that's what I like. So let's jump into the book. So essentially this is a 6-week game plan for getting your finances automated and to live in your rich life. And right out of the gate in this book, he will ask you to define what a rich life means for you. And what he means by that is some people think rich life and they think endless money, buying everything you want, eating out at fancy restaurants all the time. But that might not be what everyone wants. And so he really wants you to look inside, which I'm a firm believer in, and figure out what a rich life means to you. It's going to be different for you than it is for everybody else. So for my rich life, that just is time freedom. I dream of the day when I can sip my coffee in the morning on my own time before it gets cold out of a regular mug, not a travel mug I have to pack in my backpack and take to work with me. I mean my weekend mug that I get to enjoy on the weekends. I want that to be my everyday mug. That's me. That's what I want. I don't give a shit about owning fancy clothes, fancy designer brand things. I don't care about any of that. It's okay if that's what you want. That's cool. If that's what it means, if having a nice car, nice fancy clothes, designer name brand things is a rich life for you, awesome. Whatever it is, define it for yourself. So keep that in mind as you go throughout the book. Your rich life is whatever rich means to you. Some people just want to live on a farm in the middle of nowhere, banging around in barnyard overalls all day. I would love that, by the way. So, it doesn't matter what it is, just define it for yourself. And why are you even doing this? Why do you want to get your money right? Helps to have a why. Everything in life helps to have a why, right? So chapter 1 and the first week of your 6-week game plan is all about setting up your credit cards and optimizing them. Now, not everybody loves credit cards. Not everybody should have credit cards. There was a time for me when I've always had credit cards, but I used to use them. Even back in 2018 when I got this job, I was using them all the time because credit card points, that's one of the things that you can use toward your benefit is credit card points. But that's only if you are responsible and pay the balance off in full every single month and never get charged a penny of interest. I was kind of slipping a bit on that back in 2018, so I had to step away from credit cards for a bit, but I do now use them for the most part, and that's again strictly for getting credit card points. I refuse to pay a penny in credit card interest, and I hope I never ever have to again for the rest of my life. But you're damn right, I'll continue to get those free flights. So this chapter is all about setting up your credit cards, knowing your credit score. So getting your credit score, knowing what it means, checking it over and make sure there's no mistakes on there or anything that was added in error or whatnot. It's really like a one step. You can monitor your credit report going forward, but just hot out of the gate of this book and part of a solid financial foundation is just getting familiar with your credit score and your credit history and just knowing that everything that's happened in your life thus far is accurate and accurately reflected on there. So that's a part of your week 1 as well. And then you're going to come up with you're either going to pay off your debt if you can, or at the very least come up with like a game plan, overall game plan of how you plan to pay off your debt. And then, of course, going along with credit cards comes your bank accounts. And now we're into week 2. This is where we set up and optimize our bank accounts. Not only do some banks really suck and they charge you money for things, they charge you late fees, overdraft fees, all of that happy horse shit. He gives great suggestions for banks that are really great with fees, that have no fees, have really great customer service, and have really great rates for savings, which is also very helpful. Most banks have a real shit savings rate, especially right now, but hopefully that'll change in the future. So again, he gives banks to consider and banks to avoid. As you can see, Wells Fargo, Bank of America. But he does like Ally, Capital One, I have Capital One 360, Schwab, Marcus by Goldman Sachs, etc. And then he also tells you that you should link up your bank accounts. If you have like separate bank accounts, you can get them all linked up together and make sure that they're talking. And so if you ever have to move money around, it's a very straightforward process. Okay, chapter 3, week 3, getting ready to invest. This chapter is really the starter steps to investing, which I definitely needed when I got this book and read it for the first time. So it's opening your 401k. If you have that option. I know not every employer allows you to do that or gives you the option of a 401k. So he gives you alternative options as well. And also opening up a Roth IRA if you don't have that already. And He goes into steps about how should I fund these, what percentage of my income should go to these items. All very helpful information. Not dumbed down, but just like starter level verbiage on how to get started with this shit, because he's very much a guy that is like, let me help you with this and not talk to you like you're a dumbass. So I know, I appreciated that when it came to investing. And then, of course, if it's an option for you, also opening up an HSA, which is a health savings account, which could absolutely be a great way to not only just save your money, but cover your butt here in the United States, especially where we don't have, universal public health care, or what the heck's it called? Our healthcare sucks, we'll just say that. So having an HSA could be incredibly beneficial if you ever did need medical care. Week 4, probably my favorite week and or chapter. Ramit really hates the word budget, and I get it. It's normally associated with feelings of, oh shit, I went over my budget. Oh no, that's not in the budget. It's very, has a very negative connotation to it. So, like I mentioned in the beginning, everyone talks about how to save money, but nobody really talks about how to spend money, which is equally as important. So really, this is the only time in this whole process where he actually asks you to go back and take a look at your last 2 or 3 months of spending habits and see where you spent your money. So this is really going to be the most painful part for those of you who don't like budgeting and don't track your finances, and you think that's totally icky. This will likely be the most painful part for you, but it is really essential to kind of set your baseline to know what your habits are as a consumer. And this is where Ramit really starts to have a different narrative than some of the other gurus, like Mr. Dave Ramsey, for example, which I like him as well, but he's a bit fanatical in the whole, like, you want to get out of debt, stop drinking lattes, or you shouldn't see the inside of a restaurant unless you work there. I don't get down with that, and neither does Ramit. So instead of focusing on the minutiae, he definitely helps you understand that it's more beneficial for you to focus on the big wins, big picture items. So an example of a big picture item would be, can you rent somewhere cheaper, since your cost of living is generally everybody's largest expense? Can you live somewhere cheaper, even if it's temporarily? Do you need the new car, or are you okay with a cheaper car? That kind of thing. Big picture items. Don't be worrying about your $5 latte. That's not gonna cut the mustard when it comes to making big financial progress. And so, just as a guideline, Ramit has included this table of what's he called it? Categories of spending. So roughly the percentages of what he feels like you should be spending on each category each month. So fixed cost, rent, utilities, debt, etc. 50 to 60% of your take-home pay. Investments about 10%, savings, goals 5 to 10%, and then guilt-free spending. Guilt-free. Whatever you want it to be, whatever your little heart desires. I love that. And I've definitely gotten away from that lately until I reread this book for this video. But dining out, drinking, movies, clothes, shoes, the things that matter to you and are part of your rich life. I love that. So comparing your expenses that you went through over the last few months, how do they compare against these categories of spending? And for me, it's a bit off. My fixed costs are probably, well, when student loans are not in forbearance, my fixed costs are probably 60%-ish of my take-home pay. My investments, probably a little more than 10%. Savings goals, again, that'll change whether or not student loans are in forbearance, still ending soon, just because I've been putting about 40 to 50% of my take-home pay to my student loan savings while they've been in forbearance, but of course that'll be applied to debt when they're out of forbearance here in a couple months, supposedly. And then the guilt-free spending, admittedly, I probably only allow myself 10 to 15% for guilt-free spending, so I know I could do better in that category, but again, going back through this book recently, it really made me realize that, and which is why I've been giving myself more grace when it comes to the things that I might want to buy while I'm out and about, and just like making the day-to-day more enjoyable for myself, for my mental health, that kind of thing. So week 5, chapter 5, all about automating your finances, and it's titled Save While You Sleep. So making all of your accounts working together. I did mention this a little bit ago, but basically based on chapter 4's figures that you came up with, you're going to take a few hours now, which again may also be a little bit painful, but it's going to be so beneficial. But you take some time and get everything set up on autopilot. So get any bill that you possibly can set up on autopilot. Get savings on autopilot. Get investing on autopilot. Get your credit card payoff on autopilot, which for credit cards in theory should be have it pay the balance in full on a specific day every single month. And that way you never have to pay any percentage of interest. And this really, really lets you take a step back and stop having to constantly be thinking about your finances. This is incredibly helpful to get this set up. I found that between chapter 4 and 5, these were the most beneficial things for me when I was getting my money shit straight. He also suggests if you are a numbers person, he suggests trying Mint or YNAB, as in youneedabudget.com, to see everything in one place. Super helpful, super important stuff, especially I think too when it comes to savings. If you automate it so that your paycheck, I know I can at work, I can set my paycheck up to send a specific percentage of my pay or even a specific dollar amount to different bank accounts, and that is immensely helpful for me. So if you had a separate savings goal and a separate account you wanted to automatically have some money go towards every month, you could absolutely set that up and just not have to worry about it, and then the money just grows while you're not even paying attention. Chapter 6 is a quick fun one. It's called The Myth of Financial Expertise, and he really talks about how people can get into the trap of thinking that they need a financial advisor, and maybe why that's not always the best case. I didn't really have any big takeaways from it just because I don't personally use a financial advisor, but if you do or you are thinking about one, it may be worth a read for you, and maybe you can get some kind of information from it. Either way, I mean, it's good knowledge to really have in general, just because you hear so many stories about people that are managing someone's money and they're charging way more in monthly fees than they're even making for that person in the investments. So it could be more beneficial read for you than it, say, is for me. Chapter 7 is more about investing. So you're going a little bit deeper dive into you're going a little deeper than just opening up your 401k and your Roth and things like that. So he really talks about the importance of automating your investing, which absolutely, and the power of what investing can do for you, as far as building wealth, or if you are someone who's interested in reaching financial independence. I know I am, absolutely. So he even goes as far as talking about what are target date funds, what are index funds, what are mutual funds, stocks, bonds, cash, all of your options out there, and gives a very base level narrative on what all of these options mean and what they are. So that was helpful for me. Again, I'm not a big investor, I'm not a big finance guru, so half of these things I don't know what they are, but it was good to know I have a good reference that's more on my introductory level to those kinds of things if I should need it in the future. Chapter 8 is all about maintaining and growing your automated system that you've spent the last handful of weeks building. It's a short chapter. You focus down and really recalibrate to your why. Why are you doing this? What's the whole point of you wanting to get your financial shit together? And he goes into how you can feed your system to accelerate your growth and your plan. Again, if you were interested in financial independence or just had some goal that you're striving for your finances, he really goes into some of the ways you can feed your investments or saving system or debt pay down system and really help accelerate things for you. I also like that there's a short section in this chapter all about taxes, and it's called Stop Worrying About Taxes. I know taxes are really a big thorn in the side, headache, or cause of stress or anxiety for a lot of people. So he busts a lot of the tax myths going through here, just some of the common gripes you hear about people paying so much in taxes. He goes in to some really great points about why stressing about that kind of shit does not do you any good. Why are you worrying about that? Why do you lose sleep over that? Just let it go. So I like that. And towards the end of the chapter, he also gives you a real big checklist that I think is awesome. It's the annual financial checklist. So just really goes back through, and it's on both sides, by the way, but it's just really an annual checkup for how your money system's doing. How are your investments looking? How are your savings doing? How's your debt doing? Are you able to earn more? Have you tried to negotiate down any fees over the last year? How's your conscious spending plan doing? Are you really sticking to your kind of bracketed percentages that you set up earlier? Or have you kind of gotten away from that a bit? Which, again, I have. Absolutely wonderful to really check in with yourself and see how you're doing. Have you tried to negotiate a raise lately? By the way, he gives you verbiage in here of some really good ways to approach your boss about how to negotiate a raise. What can you do? Here's what you can say, and then take the pressure off you, take the pressure off your boss, and kind of come to a mutual, it's just such good information. If you are in a position to be able to negotiate your salary. Have you started a side hustle? Is that an option for you? All of these things that are just, they can be so helpful. And then what do we got? Chapter 9. Ooh, this one's a good one. Not pertinent to me at the moment, but common questions answered. So things like relationships, weddings, having children, buying a house, student loans, helping parents who have debt, and any other potentially awkward or faux pas conversations about finances. I mean, we all know the number one cause of divorce is fighting about money. Don't let that be you. Oh man, so he gives such great advice, and in entering a relationship, you want to be thinking about these things and maybe having talks about these things and coming to agreements about these things before entering a lifelong partnership with somebody that could potentially fail because of some miscommunication, particularly around finances. Even though it may be awkward and uncomfortable, I think it would be better to get this shit out on the table up front so people know what you're getting into. Like, I wouldn't want to get married and then suddenly the other person's like, oh, hey, I have 6 figures of student loan debt. Like, I would never do that to somebody, which I would never want anyone to help me pay that off anyway. That's not the point of finding a life partner, but just the kind of shit that you wouldn't want sneaking up on you someday. But also gives you scripts and tools for negotiating, buying a house, buying a car, giving to charity, etc. So just such a great book overall. So for me right now, my rich life is becoming debt-free so that I can have the freedom of time and choice when it comes to career and the hours in a week that I put towards that career. So basically, I want job freedom, I want time freedom, I want free time freedom. I very much enjoy going out to eat, going out for drinks, going to concerts, to the theater. I love everything social, but it just is so expensive to be social, which is so shitty. And it doesn't have to be. I know. I get it. Life does not have to be expensive. Being social does not have to be expensive. I just enjoy those things. But again, for right now, my rich life means getting debt free. So I spend extravagantly on my debt. So I fork anywhere from 40 to 60% of my income some months to my debt. And if you guys have been following my story, you know the worst it ever got for me was over $230,000 of debt, and most of that student loans. And since 2018, when I got this job, I've been able to finally start whittling some of that down. And before that, it was just going up and up and up because of compound interest. And now finally I've been able to pay it down. And so the last 4 years I have paid over $143,000 towards my debts, and I have $160,700.22 to go. And I am very much looking forward to the day when that is zero, because I just want time freedom so badly. And even to travel, I love traveling, and we know that's not cheap. So this is just temporary sacrifice, and my rich life looks this way temporarily, because I know in the long term I'm going to absolutely reassess once I am debt free. And in fact, I can't wait to read this book again once I am debt free and away from this job that I hate, and really recalibrate to the things that I actually truly value and that bring me joy. And I think that is so crucial to everyone, because what's the point of living life if you're just miserable and stressed about money all the time? And I don't want that for you. I do not want that for you. I want happiness right now, even if it's a smaller version of what you hope it will be one day. But this book, I think, can absolutely be the catalyst that can start getting you to where you want to go. It'll help you get organized and take some of the stress away in the meantime, like it has for me. Absolutely. I think this book could be for everybody. So again, I always have this linked below every single video, both hard copy and Audible. Highly recommend. And I hope you guys find as much value out of it as I have. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you are curious about my debt journey overall and you are new to my channel, I'll link that video right here for you guys. Happy financing, and I wish the best for you all. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.